多数取りの説明をします。
So in this video, I'm going to explain about how to do Tasu-dori against multiple attackers.
本来は1対1で、1対2というのは普通、できません。
Simply talking, one by one is easy, but one by multiple attackers is much harder.
で、どうするかというと、その場にいるんではなくて、動くことによって1対1の状況を作っています。
So the principle of the point of Tasu-dori against multiple attacker is by moving, yourself moving, you're going to make the situation against one. So not against multiple attackers, by moving.
で、一つ技の方は、いつものように一人に対して技をしっかりかけるというよりは方向転換するために技をかけるということを多数でやっています。
So when one by one you put technique on focusing on one person, but when you have multiple attackers, more you have to focus on changing the direction of the opponent or the attackers, so you have more room to do techniques as well. So I'm going to explain as I move now.
はい、まず最初に、この2対1の状況があります。
So firstly, yes, start with against two.
で、これを、構える。で、この構えた状態でこのまま入ると2対1になってしまうので、多数ができなくなります。
So obviously, when you start, this is one against two, and which is almost difficult or impossible to deal two at the same time. So
ここで初めてスタートしたときに視点の方はワンタイム待ちます。そうすると相手が近づいてきてだいぶ、こちらの方が一つ角度を変えることによって1対1になります。
So first when you start, basically two come at the same time to you. So wait for just for a second, and once the distance between the other cards close enough, then you move diagonally to make one against one situation. So slowly we're going to demonstrate. So two coming at the same time. Now the time one step outside. So you can forget the other one, but it's one by one now.
This person, now two person here, one person just through behind.
So one through, one just pass.
One by one.
Now the other one, one's gone, so now one by one again. And all to change the direction, so always throw behind.
The next important thing is not directly here. Now here, move out this way.
So it's always moving out to gain some time. Block and again. So you are always facing to the next opponent.
Now again, 1対1になります。
So it's one by one again.
これはどうするかというと方向転換をしている。
Then you have to turn around to change the direction. So now,
また考えるのはこの1対1でまっすぐ変えるとどんどん相手が近づく。
but if you move too straight, then you can't gain the time. Eventually you'll be right in the middle of two and you get stuck. That's why you have to one step out to earn the time. So either way you're going to go now out. So you have to keep moving, then the opponent obviously follow you. So change the angle again and just to keep separating them and keep changing the directions, to keep turning around and always yourself facing to the one. So the bad example I'm going to show you, bad example is just this is the straight one, straight one, straight one, straight moving. Then eventually you get stuck. Because you're not earning any room, you're not earning any time, so you get stuck in the middle of the two. That's bad example. So even in the middle now, having two, but if you start moving in a circular motion in a way, stepping out in a circular motion, you can gain time, you can keep separating two. Always stepping out. So by moving in this way, you can always separate two, not at the same time, so you are safe. So this is basically the principle of doing techniques against multiple attackers. So now, bit faster, yeah, faster speed. Oh, watch the wall. Yes. Oh, watch. So the idea is really separating them by turning yourself and moving out. So next, move on to third person in. So against the three. So the same principle again. So you don't make the situation having one against the three. Okay, so that's the idea. Don't make the situation that way. So again, the first is the same. Just wait for a second. So three will come at the same time. Then step out. So you. So always stepping out in a circular motion.
これの動きでどうなるかというと、2人取りの時は2人だったので、このいかに1対1にするかということをやりました。今度は3人なので、1人後ろにいて2人前という状況になります。
So when the situation was against two, you just needed to focus on separating two. But when there are three, you've got to make them one behind you away and then two in front of you, making sure you make the situation in that way. So the first one. So always, first one, send him or send her behind you. Second person, always just block and pass. No technique is needed, just block and pass. Third one, technique. Then again, so the third one's gone behind you, but now again, two in front of you. Then second person, just block and pass. Then third one again, do the technique and then send him behind you. Second one pass, third one technique, second one pass, third one technique. So second one always just block and pass or very short irimizuki. Just don't focus on the second one just pass through. And third one. And the worst technique you do is Tasu-dori, just the Tasu-dori, this one. Tasu-dori going under. So if you do Tasu-dori, you make the situation worse. You won't have enough time to do a movement. So don't do Tasu-dori.
And sometimes, たまに入り口も危ないシチュエーションの時が。っていうのは、入り口を入れた、受け身を取った、もうこれで立ち上がる。これも来た時には後ろに。
So sometimes in a situation when you do irimizuki too close, then the person who is second person, Irimizuki, and then if she or he gets up so quickly, you get stuck between two. So when you do Irimizuki, you've got to be very careful to have enough space, enough time.
ね、というのを考えながら入ります。で、これは右に行こうが左に行こうが、それは人のやりたい方向で入る。
So either right or left, it doesn't really matter. But the principle is one behind you, two in front of you.
で、
So slowly start. One.
Then,
Okay. One pass.
で2対1でこの2対1で真ん中をスルーして最後の人に技をかけるけど向こう側に持ってくる。
So yes, I said, so the one's always behind you and two in front of you. Second one, always make sure you just pass quickly. And third one, the technique that you can throw somewhere far, you can throw somewhere far. And always facing to two. So you don't need to see the person throw far behind you. You don't need to see him or her, but then always turning yourself to face to the two at the same time.
これを、一人一人全員に技をかけようとすると必ず使うんです。
So the biggest mistake a student makes is trying to do a technique on each person. Then you can't gain the time, so you get stuck very quickly.
誰に技をかけて誰にかけないのかというと常に自分で考えながら動いていくと捕まらない。
So you really need to think whom you need to pass, whom you need to throw behind. Without thinking properly, you get stuck.
そういうのを考えると3人語ではうまくいきます。
So the Tasu-dori against, especially against the three, you need to have strategy properly. Otherwise, you can't handle three.
はい。はい。はい。よし。